Hey people, how's it going? So on today's video, we are just going to do a quick talk about Ark Nova because we are getting ready for Gen Con. And at Gen Con, there's going to be a tournament of 64 people playing Ark Nova. And my wife is going to be running that, and I'm going to be her helpful assistant running around as 2 other tournaments are going on as well. But Ark Nova is a 90-minute to 150-minute game. It's going to be single elimination, but still, like 64 people, that's crazy. So we got a copy of Ark Nova from the publisher, and we had to we're getting ready for Gen Con. This is one of, 11, 12 games? 15 games we're going to be doing, or Sarah's going to be running at Gen Con. I'm going to be helping her with. And so, yeah, let's just look at the massiveness of Ark Nova. This is just 2 players. This is just only 2 players. Dun, dun, dun. Look at this. Our table barely holds 2 players. I've been told Mr. President, or some recent game called Mr. President, is bigger than this. But yeah, so this is crazy. And Ark Nova is interesting. Takes a while. But yeah, Sarah, do you want to talk a little about Ark Nova or just the madness at Gen Con? What? It's 64 people and it's already sold out?
Yes. So I'm hosting a bunch of different events at Gen Con, all different tournaments and a few learn to plays. And one of them is going to be a 64-person Ark Nova championship game. It is currently sold out. So even if you're going to be at Gen Con, if you're not already signed up for this, you're going to have to get waitlisted if you're interested. The prize pool is really cool. If you make it to the top table, you're going to get a $500 prize package. I think that is accurate. That you split with the other players at your table, depending on how well you do. So, like if you come in first, I assume you're going to get the lion's share of the prize package. But everybody who makes it to the top table gets some money to spend in Capstone's booth at Gen Con. But yeah, it is currently waitlisted. We have 64 people who are going to play. We figured out the math earlier. That means we're going to play 16 tables in round 1. So there's going to be 16 tables of 4 players each in round 1. And then from round 1, only the first person at each table. So if you come in first at your table of 4, then you get to advance to the second round of the championship, which will be 8 tables, I think, right, Nikki? And then 8 drops down to 4. So if you come in first at one of your 8 tables, then you'll play, I don't remember how the math works out, but the math works out at single elimination. You have to win at your table to advance. And if you win at your table, then you can advance to the next level. And if you win at that level, then you can advance to the final level. All told, it is a 6-hour long event because like Nick was saying, the minimum amount of time that's listed on the box for this game is 90 minutes. And the upper limit of this one is 150 minutes, which is 2.5 hours. So we think we've got to do that 3 times in 6 hours. So it's going to have to be like pretty tight rounds. And it will be interesting because in addition to running that event and being responsible for all 64 of those players, during the same time that I'm hosting that event, I'm also hosting 2 other championships. And those have lower player counts. Those are each only 16 people. But that's another 32 people to be responsible for. So at any given time, I'm going to be responsible for lots and lots and lots and lots of people, and lots of games, and just all kinds of things going to be happening. It's going to be crazy.
Usual Gen Con.
Yeah. Anyway, it should be fun, hopefully. If you're going to be at Gen Con, come and find us. If I am not dead on my feet, I would love to see you. I'd love to chat with you for a few minutes if I have time. And that would be awesome. So would you like me to tell you a little bit about Ark Nova, Nikki?
Sure.
Okay, so the big bear of a game. Essentially, this is an action selection game. Your actions are gonna come from these cards that you have in front of you. At the start of the game, all of these cards are turned over to their basic side. And we start with the animal one in this section here, and then these get randomized, and we put them in these spots here. doesn't really matter because we're going to be moving these around throughout the game, because what you're going to do on your turn is you're going to select any one of these cards to perform the particular action that that card would allow you to do. Let's say that I decide to do this association action. So this is going to let me perform one association task with a maximum value of X, where X is the position that the card is in right now. So I can do one association task with a maximum value of 4, since that's where this card is now. Now, all these cards are going to let you interact with the game in some way. Associations are going to let you interact with this board over here. And based on how high of a value that you used when you used your association task, that indicates where you can go on this board. So this one right here costs 2, this one costs 3, this one costs 4, this one costs 5. So with my card right here, since I'm using it at a value of 4, I could do any one of these except this one right here and this one right here, which I'll talk a little bit about later. So I would take one of my association workers and I would put them on a spot, maybe I would put them here, and I would do this action. All of these different actions let you do different things and sort of work in different ways to help you throughout the game. This one lets you move up 2 on this track over here. So if I was going to do that right now, I'd go 1, 2. There are reasons that you might not be able to do that. For example, let's pretend we started at the beginning and I moved 2. I would go 1, 2. The reason that you might want to do that is because at certain points of the game, you can only access these cards based on where you are. So right now I can access this card and this card, but I cannot access any of these cards. So you may want to move this further down. In addition to getting unlocking these cards, you also get some bonuses as you go down this track. So that's this one right here. This one right here would let you take a partnership tile and place it into your partnership area. And that would make it cheaper for you to play cards that meet the matching color of the partnership tile that you've played. So for example, I have all the colors except for yellow. And that means that all the cards I play, except for ones with the yellow icon on it, I get a discount of 3. I also got bonuses when I covered up some of these things here as well. So that's this section here. This one here these are universities. So if you put your fella here, let's pretend that this was still over there. If you put your fella here, you could take this tile and you could put it on your universities board. And this gives you extra icons that you can use throughout the game. It also might increase your hand limit, and it gets you bonuses when you cover up certain things on your player mat as well. And then finally, this one right here would let you place your player cubes on cards that are worth points, but only if you meet certain conditions. So I was going to, on my next turn, if I'd have gotten a next turn, I was going to play, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these orange ones, so I could have went here and gotten 5 of these points right here. So that is this board right here, and that's the association action that you can take. You can also take a card action, which would let you draw cards from here. And when you draw cards, you can draw a number of cards based on, again, where you are on the board. So I'm using the number 5 spot for this one here. With the number 5 spot, I can either draw 3 cards and discard 1, or I can snap a card. When you snap a card, you can take any one of these cards, regardless of where this marker is. You can take any one of these cards here and put it directly into your hand. But then that's sort of like the only card that you get for that. So I could snap a card, or I could draw 3 cards off the top of the deck. I don't know what they are. I'm blind drawing those. But it gives me more cards instead of snapping a particular card. When you do that, when you draw cards, you have to move this coffee break token. So it normally, for a 2-player game, it starts here. And when you move it 1, 2. If you end up in this area over here, you actually cause like a administrative phase to trigger, and we have to go through some like cleanup. We get some money. We have to get rid of some cards. We have to discard our own personal hands down. We clean up tokens and that kind of stuff. So we just go through a bit of administrative phase when we do this here. So that's how we get more cards into our hand, and we need those cards in our hand to be able to play them over here. We play the cards from over here by playing this animal card. So this one here, let's pretend that it was further along. Let's pretend that it was in space 3 and it's my turn. I'm going to play this card here. When it's in space 3, I can play one animal from my hand. So if I had this card in my hand and I'm using this action here, I can play one card. I have to pay to be able to do that. So like this one, it costs $10 to be able to play it. And it has to be able to fit in an enclosure in my zoo that's 2 or more. But when I do that, then it's going to grant me these icons, which don't necessarily mean anything themselves, but they're going to help me with other things. And then it may also grant me an ability and maybe some points. And I'll talk about the points later because the points are a little weird in this game. So that's how you play this animal card here. Like I said, when you're placing animals into your zoo, you need enclosures to be able to put them in. And thankfully, I did have an enclosure that I could have put that animal in. But if I hadn't, I would need to build enclosures. And there's a bunch of different kinds of enclosures that you can build. And the way that you build is, again, based on where your card is on this sort of row right here. So if I was going to build as my action this time, then I can build one building, and it has to have a maximum size that does not exceed this number right here. So right now it's 2. At most, I could build this little singular dude or this double dude right here. If this was further along, let's say that this was actually over here, then I could build a maximum of 4. So in that case, I could build either of these guys, or I could build a 3 or a 4. And if it was even further along, if it was in the 5 spot, then I could build any one of these things right here. That's the enclosures that we build in our zoo. When we're placing these enclosures into our zoo, we have to place them on this sort of map right here. We played with the entry-level version of the map, but there's actually a few different types of maps that you can use, and I think maybe there's some expansion content which includes even more maps. But we used like the basic map, and on the basic map there are some icons. These rocks and these water symbols can't be covered over unless you have a special card which says otherwise. But other things can be covered over, and when you cover over certain things, you get benefits. So for example, when I covered over this icon right here, I got an additional association member. And then like when I covered over this one here, I got $10 and so on. So that's what we're doing with these things here, is we're trying to cover these over so we have places for our animals to live. There are also bonuses if you complete like your entire zoo, if you get like spaces, if you completely fill up like all of the spaces. And you don't just need to fill them up with enclosures either. There's also these little tokens right here. These are kiosks, and then there are also pavilions. And when you place a pavilion, you immediately score points. When you place a kiosk, you get money that's generated every cleanup phase, every income phase. When we go on coffee break, we get money for these kiosks, depending on where they're placed, how many different enclosures are around them, which have animals inside. So there's lots of stuff going on our boards over here. I think there's one more action I haven't told you about, and it's this one right here. This is this sponsorship action. So when you play a sponsorship, that's the blue ones, right, Nikki?
Yeah.
Okay. When you play, I played a lot of blue ones this game. So when you play a sponsorship card, you are going to play one of these types of cards from your hand. And again, this is going to be at the level that your card is currently at. So again, let's pretend that this was a little further along. Like maybe this was here in the 5 section, and I decided to play this here. So I can play one of these cards from my hand that has a value of 5 or lower. Or I can choose to take a coffee break. So we would move this marker up again along here, and then I would get money equal to this space right here. So we'd have to move the coffee token up 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, but then I would get $5 from the supply. Or I could play one of these cards from my hand. These cards do different things. I had some that gave me like end of game scoring. I had some that let me ignore bad tokens. I had others that let me place special tiles on my board. They do all different kinds of things. So what you're doing is on your turn, you're selecting one of these cards that you want to play. You're sort of sliding it down, you're doing the action of the card, and then you're taking this up, you're shifting all the other cards down, and you're putting this one in your leftmost spot. So there's a little bit of card manipulation here in that you're trying to get certain cards into certain areas so that you can play them the way that you want to. You can also upgrade 4 out of 5 of these cards at most in any game. So that might look like maybe at one point I upgrade this, and maybe later I upgrade this, and then maybe later I upgrade this, and then maybe later I upgrade this. When they're on their upgraded side, they can do pretty much the same thing that they could do before, but better. It's either going to cost you less, or it's going to get you more, or it's going to be easier, or that kind of thing. So the upgrades are really nice. The way that the game ends is that we have 2 scoring tracks. You'll see we've got these different scoring markers over here. When we start the game, we start with one of our scoring markers over here, like so, and the other over there, like so. Nick can help me out. And then as we're playing the game, you're getting 2 different types of points. You're getting conservation points, which are the green ones. So you're moving along the green spaces over here. And then you're also getting these, which I forget what they're called. Do you remember what they're called? Appeal, that's right. Appeal points. And then you're moving this way along the appeal track. As you move along the appeal track, we're going to unlock certain things like here and here. And we're also going to increase the amount of income that we get every cleanup phase. So we start the game with just 5 income, but eventually we're going to be getting 25, 26, 30 income every cleanup phase. So the game is going to continue. Players are going to move along this track and along this track. Eventually, one player's pieces are going to meet each other or cross paths. When that happens, every other player is going to get another turn, or if it happens in the cleanup phase, then every player, including that player, will get another turn, and then the game will end. And the way that we're going to score the game is a little unusual. It works like this. Let's pretend that Nikki had been moving this way with this piece and this way with this piece, and he crosses over. Let's say that he's here, and then he gets a whole bunch of points and he ends up over here. We're going to subtract part of his score from here and part of his score from here, and it's going to give us a number. And so I think I need to reference the rulebook to make sure that I'm doing it 100% correctly, but I think in this case it would be like you do the lowest value over here, which would be 86, and the lowest value over here in the green spaces, which would be 100, and you subtract those numbers from each other. So 86 from 100, you get 14. So Nick's final score based on the board is 14. Now he may have some cards, especially because we both get, I have misplaced mine, but we both get, here it is, we both get some end of game scoring cards, which are a secret throughout the whole game. So you may get some extra points from here, or I got some extra points from all of these conservation projects that I was working on. You may get some extra points from there, but this is where the bulk of your points are going to come from. So here Nick had 14 points, then we add points from our cards and points from here, and then whoever has the most points wins.
Boom.
Yeah, that's a super rough, super quick overview of Ark Nova. The game has quite a bit going on. What did you think of it, Nick?
It's a pretty long game. There's a lot of cards, so I didn't really like the amount of cards because sometimes you would need a specific species.
Oh my gosh, I was looking for a freaking primate for like half of the last game.
Yeah.
I found one the entire game.
Yeah, because you get some cards that will give you points or bonuses throughout the entire game if you have them come out. But if you shuffle the deck and then you just get, it's kind of like, I don't know, for those that played Magic the Gathering, if you don't get enough lands, you kind of called mana screwed. In this game, if you don't get the right species and the right kind of areas of the continents, and you don't get those that work for you, and you're constantly having to change up your strategy, it can be frustrating and I don't know, a little disappointing when your strategy didn't work out just because certain cards didn't come out. But yeah, and the cards move well. It's just there's so many cards. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as a lot of people talk about the game. They're like, oh my goodness, this is the greatest game ever. I'm like, I don't know, not really. I mean, it took us a while to play this game, so I did enjoy just like the long-term strategy, and try and build up things and having your strategies come out and to the end. And so that was fun. I just think this is a heavy game and a lot to take, a lot to keep track of. And if you lose that, then you might just be kind of screwed within the game. So definitely for heavier game and people that don't mind sitting at the table for long hours. But yeah, and even teaching people. I'm glad Sarah doesn't have to teach this at Gen Con.
Oh
you
gosh,
have to come to the tournament and you have to know how to play. If you're like, I don't know how to play, do a quick teach. This is not the tournament for you. There is no time for this.
Well, it doesn't. I always feel like if it was me and I was going to step into a tournament, I would want to know the game pretty well. I would want to be pretty confident in my ability to play the game because it's a tournament. So you want to do as well as you can. And if you walk into the tournament underprepared or unprepared, then to me that just wouldn't be very fun. I'd be stressed out the whole time. And I would also be like highly cognizant of the fact that other people were potentially suffering because of my lack of knowledge. Now that's all personal to me, right? Like other people may not have any like qualms at all about stepping into a tournament without very much knowledge, without being very confident in the game. But I think that with this one, we're going to get fairly experienced players. I don't think we're going to get anybody who's like, I don't even know how to play, because of a couple things. One, it does cost money to enter. It's a little bit of money. It's like $2, but it does cost money to enter. So every one of those 64 people who has registered has bought a ticket specifically for this event. So they have paid to enter this tournament. They will spend anywhere from 2 to 6 hours participating in this event at Gen Con. So that's like Gen Con time that you're spending. And they're going to spend anywhere from 2 to 6 hours participating in this event. So I think the barriers to entry are high enough, are costly enough to where it is going to deter people who do not feel very confident in their ability to understand and play this game at least decently well. So I don't think that we're going to have any like brand new people walk up and be like, I want to play and I don't know how. I don't think that's going to happen at Gen Con. It does happen at some of my other championships, but the stakes are much lower for those. And the buy-ins are much, much lower for those as well. So I don't think we're going to have anybody just like walk up and not know how to play. Now, I do think the game is complex enough that if we have some very, very experienced players and some less experienced players, the experienced players are going to be at an advantage. But I think that's really only fair for a strategy game. I don't know that it would be really fair for a strategy game if people who are highly experienced could lose to people who had very little experience just based on like luck. Now, if the highly experienced person is playing poorly or something like that, then sure, they could still lose. But I just think like in this game, I think based on how the barriers to entry here are higher than other games, and because it is a Gen Con event, that also raises the barrier to entry a little bit as well. So I don't think that we're going to have any like inexperienced players who are going to want to play this. But yeah, you're going to want to know what you're doing if you're going to step into a tournament like this.
Yeah. What'd you think of Ark Nova real quick?
I thought that it was interesting. There's a lot of stuff about it that I think is cool. It overstays its welcome for me for a long time, though. I was saying this, so the way that the game ends, like I said, is when the two tokens like meet. So you either have to get like this one like all the way around here, or like this one like quite significantly over here. And in both of the games, we've only played twice now, but in both of the games that we've played, this one that was moving from this direction didn't end up very far. It was over here most of the time. Like, we didn't get much further than that. And maybe, we're pretty inexperienced players ourselves, so maybe that's not typical, but this token over here got much further. So with this one, we had to like make it around this bend, and then significantly down this side of the track as well before we managed to meet these two up. So to me, I feel like these tracks could probably be half as long as they are, and it would probably be enough of this game for me. Or like Nick was saying, there's so many of these cards, and I think honestly that's one of the points of the game that the designers and maybe the publisher thinks is like a high point in this game. Every single one I think there's like over 150 cards in the deck, and like every single one of them is unique. That is super cool. But for gameplay, it did just kind of feel like, I was like looking for that primate card for a significant portion of the game. I think in the entire game we saw like 5 maybe. So I think maybe if there were fewer cards, or if you could remove some cards for a shorter game, or if you could like start on one of these tracks like a little further advanced maybe for a shorter game, so that if you wanted the option of playing a shorter game, you could. And I know that we're very inexperienced players, so maybe as we gain experience, it will take less time, but the minimum play time on the box is 90 minutes. So I think even if we were experienced players, even if we're playing quickly, this could still take like an hour and a half to play. And that to me is just a little long for what this is. It's fun, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed it. And I do like heavier games now and then, but this was it's just a little long for what it is, in my opinion. So yeah, it's neat. I honestly, I don't think that if I didn't have to learn this, that I would have chosen to, just because it is such a long game and there is quite a bit going on. I probably would have rather done something else with my time. But there is some neat stuff going on here. I really like the artwork. Every single card is unique, so there's all of these photorealistic pieces of art on every card, and every single one of them is unique, and there are all these different animals and like geological things happening in the game, and I really loved that. I loved seeing all the animals. I love animals so much, so it was really cool to get to see all the animals, and it was neat to see how the sort of hook of this game is that you're running a scientifically accurate zoo. So like there were cool things where like you could have one species of animals could cohabitate with another species of animals as long as they both shared like the same habitat type and the same requirements for like the same size of enclosure type thing. So like I don't remember exactly for sure, but I think at one point I had like some flamingos that were cohabitating with some antelope or something like that. And I've actually seen that in real zoos. So it was very cool to like, in your head, you're like building your zoo and it's actually happening in a realistic way. It's developing in this very realistic, very sort of scientifically accurate way. And I thought that was really cool. I liked that a lot. I also liked, there's these special tokens that you can play in the game. So we talked about like the level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 enclosures. There's also a few special types of enclosures, which some of the cards reference. So I had some cards which referenced some of these tokens, and then you find that specific token and you play that into your zoo. So like this one here I got in the first game, and you could build it in between 2 rock structures in your zoo. So I know I took all my tokens off the board already, but let's pretend that I could build this like, where could it go, Nikki? Like here, maybe? No. Like here, maybe. And then this structure here, it had to meet with rocks at the beginning and end, but then you could add this structure to your zoo and it would give you some kind of, I don't remember what bonus this was, but it was kind of cool because when you played that card, you would go and find this specific piece, and they have all these, I didn't even pull them all out of the box. There's a whole bunch more. They have all these different special pieces. And when you'd play certain cards, they would reference these pieces and they say, okay, go get this particular piece and play it into your zoo. And so there's all different kinds of these pieces here, and they're all different shapes and they do different things. And I really liked that. I thought that was really cool. I also really liked I really liked the partnerships. You could form partnerships with different
Continents.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what they were called in the game, but you formed these partnerships with different zoos from different continents. So like this one is from Australia, you formed a partnership with that one, and then like this one is from I'm not sure what that one is. But you formed these partnerships, and it not only gave you a discount when you were playing animals of that type, so like every time you played Australian animals after this, they cost you 3 less, but some of it also allowed you to do different things where there was like animal breeding programs where like if you had a particular kind of snake maybe, and then you had a partnership with Australia, then you could have a breeding program where you could breed your snake with a snake from your partner zoo, and then it would give you extras and bonuses and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool. Again, it got me in the mindset of thinking like about real zoos and about how they function in real life, and playing, like fleshing that out in a gaming experience was a lot of fun, I thought. All in all, I think it's fun. I just wish it was a little shorter than it is.
Maybe we'll see an Ark Nova duel.
That would be cool. I don't know that we need it with 2 players. There was a little bit of player interaction here and there, but you could, if you wanted to, you could play without that. So it would be less interactive. And there, in my opinion, there wasn't a lot. I think there are 10 cards that have interaction, and I mean, with this ginormous stack of cards, 10 cards, you know, you're unlikely to see very many of them. So it wasn't hugely interactive, but we did get underfoot a few times. Like we'd take a card that the other player wanted, or you would, you know, end up blocking them out of a particular area over here or that kind of thing. So we did get underfoot of each other a few times, but it's not a massively interactive game in my opinion.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, that was a little bit of Ark Nova and our thoughts on it. What we liked, what we didn't really like about it, and what's going to be happening at Gen Con with this game. So yeah, Gen Con's going to be a fun time. It's just going to be a hectic, crazy time, especially ask anybody that works that is not just an attendee. There, even content creators that come, they already have scheduled appointments, people they want to check out. So even their time is just they're running around trying to gather content and gather things to make content when they go back home. So Gen Con's just a crazy time. If you're there, come say hi. We'll be in next to the exhibit hall where all the tournaments are happening. We'll be over there. So if you see us or if you see me walking around, just stop and say hey. I'm not no one special. I'm no one like that, not a celebrity. So if you see me or you see Sarah and you want to talk to us, just get an opportune moment, then interject and say hi. I like what you do, or how's it going? Stuff like that. But yeah, or I'm excited to see people at Gen Con, say hello and connect with people, and just help Sarah run these tournaments, because it's also fun to see people have a good time and be there to make it happen. But yeah,
I agree. I really love hosting, and I'm looking forward to hosting. I am a little bit my excitement is a little tamped down this year, just because I have so much that I'm responsible for. Like Nick said, or like I said earlier, I'm doing like 15 or 16 different events where I'm the primary contact for that event. So I'm hosting tons of events, and I will have some help throughout that, but it's just going to be a lot of work for me, and it's going to be a lot of fun, but it is going to be a lot of work. I know it's going to be exhausting. So I'm a little bit less excited about it this year than I would be in prior years, but that's just because I have so much that I'm responsible for at Gen Con this year. But like Nick said, we'd love to see you. We'd love to chat with you. We will be in the tournament area pretty much the whole time, Thursday through Saturday, every day from like 9 a.m. to midnight. We'll be in the championship area. One or more of us will be in the championship area. And we'd love to see you. if I am yelling into a microphone or at a crowd of people or anything like that, and you'd like to wait, then as soon as I get everybody seated and started on their events, then we would love to chat with you. But if we miss you this year, then we would love to see you at some point in the future. That would be great.
All right. So we hope you all enjoyed this little video and a little gab on what's happening at Gen Con and what's going to go on with Ark Nova. But yeah, so we hope you're all enjoying your weekend as the time of this recording and playing lots of games. So until next time, toodles!